Hello, this is MykonosFan, and today I'd like to talk about Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. I realize a Mario-centric JRPG isn't quite standard fare for my channel, but I hope you can forgive that. You see, my pal Jack surprised me with this as a Christmas gift out of nowhere, and in return I was to give him a review of this game back. So after taking forever, I finally got it done, and hopefully it doesn't disappoint. As far as my history with Mario goes, it's kind of a mixed bag. I'm awful at the 2D games, and as far as the 3D platformers go, I've really only loved the Galaxy titles and 3D World. I played the hell out of Sunshine as a kid, though. Oh, and Captain Toad rocks. And when it came to the RPGs, I beat most of Mario Luigi Partners in time. I rented Super Paper Mario and didn't love it, and, well, I own Sticker Star, but the idea of basically needing a guide open at all times to know which sticker I need to use on a specific boss is quite a turnoff for a portable game, despite how much I desperately want to appreciate the other aspects of the title. So I got to the first or second world and just kinda opted out. I should mention that I'm playing Paper Jam now, thanks to my good friend Bobby, and that I'm enjoying it. Those paper toads, though. Anyway, I'm rambling now. So enter Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, released in the second half of 2004, a game which certainly packs a reputation that precedes it. There are always some games that you just always hear a positive buzz about. Games that are mentioned with adoration and fondness. Games that merely suggesting you haven't played causes those who have to sing its praises and urge you to get a hold of it. That kind of reputation can be a bit off-putting. I love being part of the conversation when it comes to games. They get me more passionate and excited than anything else on this planet. So to finally have in my hands what was supposedly a golden standard in a genre I once loved and subsequently fell out of was rather intimidating. Eventually I managed to get my act together and start the game to forge my own opinion. And the game starts simply enough, identically as I'm told to the very first Paper Mario on Nintendo 64. Oh, yeah, would you look at that? Yep, Mario and Luigi sitting in a house, and they get a letter from Princess Peach, and it's off to somewhere else. In Thousand-Year Door, you're off to a distant land to meet up with her and hunt for some treasure that she mentions. Immediately, the first area was striking to me. I'm used to Mario games having pretty cut-and-dry, hyper-clean locales. Grassland, desert land, snow, lava, blah blah blah. Thousand-Year Door's opening area and central hub, Rogueport, is, well, frankly put, it's just some dingy, dirty, almost ugly port town. There are gruff sailors, thieves, scoundrels, and more lurking about the place. There's even a gallow right in the center of town. I mean, geez, that's not what I'm used to from Mario. And you know what? I like that. This extends to the rest of the game's worlds too. I got bait and switched when I sent out to the first area, the Petal Meadows. It seemed like your typical Mario starting world, but when I got there I saw a glimpse of a dragon heading into the background. The residents tipped me off about it, and I learned that it was called Hooktail and had presumably eaten those who had gone to try and rid the land of it. And not only would I have to participate in a quiz show to get to the castle it worked in, but there was a castle it worked in. Yeah, that's a Mario trope, but I had a mystery on my hands already. Nearly every area in this game succeeds at establishing a mystery that I couldn't wait to solve. But let's put a pin in that. I'll get back to the story. Upon arriving at Rogueport, we meet up with a scrappy Goomba named Goombella and rescue her from a bunch of uniformed, things. As fate would have it, Mario finds out that Peach is missing, and hey, maybe it's tied to this big treasure we came here for. Goombella knows another Goomba called Professor Frankly, who just happens to help our heroes out. We find out about the legend of the 7 crystal stars, which sealed an incredible treasure behind the Thousand-Year Door below Rogueport, and, well, in basic terms, the rest of the game is about finding these MacGuffins. Nothing incredibly innovative here. This is Mario after all, but this leads us to the aspect of the game that is arguably its strongest point, and what I will remember most about this game for years to come. Its characters. For starters, this game made me like and care for a Goomba. Pretty damn impressive there, intelligent systems. Too bad she's eating Mario's dust all the time. What's with so much dust in these video games? Okay, sorry, characters. I mentioned a bit ago that Rogueport's grimy nature seemed to clash against everything I know about the Mario we have from these days, and it feels the same way with the inhabitants of Thousand Year Door. I'm playing Paper Jam right now by comparison, and everything boils down to things along the line of Toad with red spots, Toad with green spots, a Koopa, a Goomba, etc. Now let's jump back to Thousand Year Door, and let's take a look at this weird, cocky-looking Koopa. I can't remember his name, but I remember the way he looks without even having to look at the game. I know that he asks you for a low-effort job, something easy to get by on, and, wants to know if you can help him out. I remember this because while a Koopa is one of the most common species in Mario, his character is not. He is atypical. Let's take Paubery, this Bomb. He's not just a standard Mario bomb dude who shows up. He's a shell of his former self, who lost his wife and gave up on the only thing he had left due to sorrow. I will remember him, his tale, and his redemption much more than any of the Lakitus that have been flying around in Paper Jam. Above all else in this game, the characters stand out the strongest, and were the main motivation I had to see it through to the end. I mean, this game made me care about a computer that falls in love with Princess Peach. Huh? There's also Rockhawk, this big star wrestling character. Why is a big star wrestler in a Mario JRPG? Only because there's an entire chapter dedicated to Mario working his way up the ranks as a pro fighter while solving a mystery of past participants who disappeared. Aside from admittedly dragging on a bit too long, this chapter was pretty much everything I didn't even know I wanted. Just King K, man! Man, that's my boy! My second favorite part of this game was a literal murder mystery train ride. I almost feel like talking too much about these things is giving it all away. If you haven't played this game, you just need to go into these ridiculously charming moments for yourself. I do want to bring it back to that pin we made earlier, though. Every land has a mystery. You go to every area for the arbitrary reason of finding the crystal star, sure, but you get so much more once you're there. From the whodunit of the train ride to trying to figure out why this dark, eerie village's residents are being turned into pigs, there's always some weird thing happening that is urging you to keep going. I constantly felt the desire to talk to everyone to see what silly, quirky thing could transpire next to fill me in. The actual core plot of the game, rescuing Peach, finding out what happened to these X-Nauts dudes that want the treasure behind the door, all of that never really appealed to me. The plot is a necessary evil in terms of an excuse for everything to happen in a Mario game, but without this extensive array of unique, oddball, self-aware characters populating eccentric backdrops, I would have found it a lot harder to care. I'd also like to point out one last thing I really enjoyed about the characters. Having Bowser being a bumbling idiot who is constantly 10 steps behind Mario at almost any given point was fantastic. Now let's put another pin in the notion of being 10 steps behind something for later on. So as much as I'd love to sit here and talk about the Thousand Year Door's wonderful characters for the rest of our lives, I should probably move on to the other important half of a game, the gameplay. Paper Mario splits itself between two broad styles, light exploration with incredibly basic platforming and navigation, and its engaging battle system. In the former, you'll traverse around towns, caves, forests, and the like while obtaining new power-ups that let you explore more thoroughly. These can range from being turned into a boat, a paper airplane, curling up and rolling around, etc. You also get a wide amount of partner characters with you as the game progresses, who bring their own quirks to help you find goodies and progress. A Yoshi you hatch lets you cross large gaps, Madame Flurry lets you blow away layers of paper, Vivian lets you hide in the shadows so you can eavesdrop on birds. Okay, they're not all life-changing, but they have their uses. Now, Vivian's overworld use probably sounds incredibly contextual and pointless, which it is, admittedly, but in battle you can use it to completely dodge an attack, which is rather useful. There's a lot going on with the combat, which is a tad deceptively deep for a Mario title, but it retains the series' core trait of being easy to pick up and play. Battles take places on stages, which draw in an audience, or drives them away depending on your performance in battle. This isn't exactly your standard turn-based JRPG, there is a timing mechanic in it that distinctly reminds me of The Legend of Dragoon. I know it didn't originate there, but it's what I'm familiar with. Every attack in the game has a timing element you can learn and utilize to give yourself the upper hand. Mario's hammer can be let go at a certain moment to do more damage. He can do a second jump attack if you tap the button the instant he first lands on an enemy, that kind of thing. This also applies to the active dodging system in place. Each attack in the game has a certain time frame where you are able to deflect an attack or even outright counter it to avoid damage and dish out some while you are at it. This is fantastically implemented, and it ensured that even at the 50-hour mark that I was paying attention to every battle to avoid taking unneeded damage. This also marches perfectly in step with the greatest design philosophies in the best Mario games. Nothing feels like the game's fault. You have equal opportunity each time to reach success and avoid failure. You can only ever be upset with yourself with regards to missteps. I haven't even touched on my appreciation that the crystal stars grant you special combat moves, as opposed to being just literal plot devices. This loops back around to the audience satisfaction I mentioned earlier, and it even ties back into the timing. When you start collecting crystal stars through the game's plot, you get a star on your battle HUD for each one. Using special moves costs a certain number of stars. To refill your gauge, so to speak, timing attacks stylishly and avoiding damage will get you there in a jiffy. In addition to standard moves, there is an additional time frame where you can hit A to perform a trick to win over the audience. Everything just amounts to a feel-good battle system that meets a good balance between menu-driven combat and the opposite extreme of an action RPG. Factor in all kinds of status conditions, items, et al., and you've got a fun battle system. And this hasn't even touched on the badge mechanic. In lieu of traditional abilities gained through leveling up, you can collect and buy badges along the way. These badges can range from granting you extra moves, to making you avoid certain status conditions, to raising your attack and defense, to lowering your attack and defense. You can pretty much build Mario any way you want, and a few apply to your partner as well. By leveling up, you can choose to gain extra health points, extra flower points for your special moves, or extra badge points. Badge points granting you more slots to equip them with. By late game, I had a battle setup that was restoring my health every time I attacked, randomly healing me every other turn, giving me more flower points to use every other turn, all in addition to me being unable to be confused or poisoned. I felt powerful, and while the highest damage count I ever inflicted was just 15, there is no denying how emboldened I felt. To keep things simplistic for a Mario game, your partner doesn't have a traditional experience or leveling system. Instead, you find shine sprites tucked away throughout the land and exchange them for an NPC to boost your partner's skills with magic. It feeds wonderfully back into the light exploration elements elaborated upon earlier, and it gives you a genuinely good reason to poke around every nook and cranny in and around Rogueport. Whew. Okay, so far I've explored numerous things that I feel the game does quite proficiently. Let's hit on a few things I felt could have been done better, done away with, or maybe mixed up a bit for next time. And yes, I know the next time was Super Paper Mario, which mixed things up very much, but let's stay in an ideal world where the next Paper Mario built on Thousand Year Door more, instead of throwing a lot of its strides out the window. First things first, I wish there was another way to gain badge points. This isn't really a game you can level grind in, as enemies give you dramatically less experience points as you grind in an area, and choosing between more health or flower points or badge slots as the game wore on weighed on my mind more than it probably should have. I would have loved a system where paying a certain amount of coins could have net me a few extra badge slots, so I could fret a little less about going to the final boss with 25 hit points. Maybe I should have planned that one a little better. Another thing that may be a subjective negative is the amount of dialogue. Writing is the game's strongest point, I felt, but if you find yourself uninterested in the eccentric exchanges, I could see it becoming tiresome. Personally, I adored it, but it is worth pointing out as it is a bit more objective. Now for my biggest gripe. Near the end of the game, there is a certain fetch quest of sorts. You need to find 2 bob-ombs that will help you reach the final area of the game. One is easy enough to find, as he's in the upscale Poshley Heights and is a character you've become familiar with throughout the game. No big matter there. The other becomes a wild goose chase where you have to go back to every area in the game, only to talk to an NPC who tells you are minutes late and that your target has just left for a different area. That goes back to that 10 steps behind thing I was talking about a little earlier. Arguably, This serves as a way to remind you of how far you've come and to let you see all these characters again before your final confrontation. That falls a bit flat, pardon my pun, because during the course of the actual final boss battle, you see all these characters and see all these places again. And to make matters even more obnoxious, the entire time, the Bob-omb you were looking for was in a house right behind a quest giver. In the grand scheme of things, this isn't that bad. With a guide, I knew exactly what to do and finished it in about half an hour, but I felt it only detracted from the game's pacing and added nothing other than a poor attempt at humor. It's pretty much the only bad part of an otherwise excellent game. And overall, that brings me to my main takeaway from Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. It is an excellent game. It strikes me as a game Nintendo absolutely made, but it feels so foreign to what I'm used to with Mario that it kind of doesn't feel like something they made at the same time. I have a longing for more of this in my life, so I've went ahead and downloaded the first Paper Mario onto my Wii U, and will likely be playing that after a short break to make sure I don't burn out. There are rumors now of a new Paper Mario for the Wii U console, so let us hope that we get a true successor to this game. If you haven't played Thousand Year Door, hunt it down. It may be a bit more expensive on eBay than you'd like, but it is worth the cost. If you like this video and wouldn't mind me talking more about non-PlayStation games here and there, let me know and I'll see what I can do. Thank you very much for watching this video, and thanks again to Jack for giving me the opportunity to play it.